Here are all the strange articles that you might have missed in the news. Today, we'll be talking about how U.S. Representative Tim Burchett is moving the conversation forward with the Nazca bodies, a UFO caught by a Boeing 747 pilot, and ambitions to make the moon the new Noah's Ark, along with a few other articles. Let's get straight into this one. First, talking about Tim Burchett. Or Burchett, but we like to say Burchett because, closed captions, they like to really mess up that name. And with Jaime Maussan, who was a Mexican ufologist, he conducted an interview with Tim here August 11th, so just a few days ago, talking about all the things that he's doing, how Congress is working with attempting to help with UFO transparency and disclosure. But one of the biggest highlights in this interview was what Tim Burchett said about the Nazca bodies, because he mentioned that he wants them to come to the United States very specifically to be studied under the university that he went to, which is the University of Tennessee, and that he wants to, quote, bring the most important people in the world to examine the bodies. Let's take a second on that for a moment. There's been a lot, and I'm saying a lot in all bold and caps, controversy with these Nazca bodies that made a real public appearance in September of 2023. So practically a year ago, give or take a little bit. And yes, Gaia has been covering it for a few years prior to that, but the world, during the second Mexican hearing, these bodies were brought forward. And then ever since then, people have been saying, no, they're fake. No, they're real. Make the information public. Make the data public, the analysis. And Jaime has been doing that. You can find the data reports and the research on the website. I can place that link in the description box for you in a little bit. But what's bizarre for those that are saying that it's a hoax, why is he getting representatives in the United States to take a look at this and bring it into a university? It's odd. Unless somehow Jaime has this incredible influence on people to say, yeah, take it, and let's see what happens. He's putting his reputation on the line, as well as Tim Burchett. They are both putting their reputation on the line to talk about these things publicly and to conduct investigations on these things. If they were a hoax, if they were fake, that investigation would have ended a long time ago. But there have been a consistent amount of researchers that have looked into this. There have been a handful of conferences in Mexico and in Peru as well, looking at these things, getting a better understanding. Peruvian universities have looked into this. So it's demonstrating that there is something there, but what is it, right? And I'm really am shocked. I really am surprised. This caught me off guard that Representative Tim Burchett from the United States spoke about this publicly and said, yes, I want the most brilliant minds to look at this and to conduct our own investigations. On top of that, it says here, quote by Tim Burchett, I will gladly help you find someone that would analyze them. And it must be independent of the federal government. Because Tim Burchett has been very vocal that even though he is a congressman, he doesn't trust the United States government, which you don't hear that from representatives because practically you don't bite the hand that feeds you. But in this case, Tim Burchett does not fear that. He says, I don't care. I do not trust them. I want to do all my own investigations. I want to hire the most brilliant minds that are not a part of the federal government to do these investigations. And we are very aware that he's been one of the very few reps that have spoken very publicly and very passionately about UFOs, about UFO transparency and disclosure from the government. However, he consistently highlights that what he's doing, pushing this conversation, it's not about, as he says, the little green men, but it's about how the government needs to provide transparency on where the funding for these UFO projects are going. And while you and I might think, oh man, but like, we obviously want to hear about these reverse engineering programs and the data that they're collecting. Of course, we want to hear that. But one of the best ways probably to approach this is through a very strategical way. And that for him, for Tim Burchett, it's through the narrative of funding. It's the same thing that we hear the narrative of UFOs are a national security threat. And I've mentioned this so many times, but for all of my first time viewers and listeners, hi, hello, I'm going to just very briefly touch on this. If it wasn't a threat, people would not be putting tax dollars or investing money and equipment if it was all rainbows and unicorns. When it becomes a threat, then people can say, okay, now we need to seriously look at this. So it's just a label, it's just a title, but it adds some credence to the topic for people to conduct these investigations in order to protect airspace, to protect pilots, and overall to protect the nation in any country, right? This is very exciting. I'm very glad that we're able to cover this article, making it our number one. And before we even continue, I got to ask you, did you see this one coming? I didn't. And I have no problem admitting that. I did not see this one coming. Did any of you, all those watching this live, or if you're watching this on replay, let me know in the comments as well. Right now we have 194 people watching this live. If you are enjoying the show, hit that like button right down below. So let me ask you. Robert says, no, I didn't. Even Marty says, I did not see this coming. I know. Jonocide says, of course, but no, I didn't. Now Hides is saying, Burchett is our man. When it comes to this topic, he's been one of the very few that have really been bulldozing it very publicly, along with Anna Paulina Luna as well. These are very exciting times. They truly are. And on top of that, something else that's rather exciting is a pilot sharing his own UFO footage that he caught while he was in the air. And before I even show you the video, it's about 2.5 minutes long. Pilots, for the longest time, have been so scared to share their UFO sightings because we have seen pilots in the past that come forward and they lose their jobs and they get an office job instead, saying you're not in the right mind to be flying if you're seeing bizarre craft in the sky that cannot be described as a satellite or a drone or Venus, right? Which we hear a little too often when it comes to pilots. And yet in this day and age, right here in 2024, some pilots have no fear in showing that. And in this, what this pilot had mentioned, all the way from Indonesia, he was flying from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria, and he had placed in his YouTube description, because he published this on YouTube, and that link will be in the description box below for you to watch. But he says here, and I'm reading it directly from the YouTube, it says, but 30 minutes after, something strange happened again. They were intercepted by a UFO. Yes, it's a UFO. They don't believe it for the first time. They thought that what it was merely an aircraft, but it did not show on radar. And we thought it was a drone, but drones have to show on radar and don't use lights. Maybe it was a satellite, but we also can't say that because this UFO was moving in various ways and directions. Could it have been a star? No, because the light was too strong and just moving too erratically. So please figure it out for yourself, and maybe you can identify this flying object. I'm going to share this video right here, and if you are listening to this on a podcast platform, that video link is in the description box below. Let's go ahead and play it.
Wow. Ooh, very bright now. Wow. That's UFO. Catch them. Sometimes come, sometimes off, sometimes off again. That's right. Run again. Yes. Is that the start? You get it? Okay. Small one. Shy. Shy.
Really?
No idea.
Which country? Two of them now, the same position. Very.
Yeah.
That one is below, right? He said like, oh, wallah,
There's only one guys. Ooh. That's new unidentified flying objects, UFO.
So this video was recorded by this man right here by the name of Captain Ron Van Paganan, and he reported encountering UFOs during a flight from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria. And the incident, which occurred somewhere along the flight path over Africa, involved 2 UFO encounters. And it's very likely that he was recording this through his GoPro camera, because in his original YouTube video, it's how he's getting to the airport, getting into the plane, getting situated, and then 30 minutes while the plane is in the sky, while it's in flight, that's when they see this very strange UFO, plural, 2 UFOs. And then it seemingly appeared and disappeared. Also in the original, he considers the possibilities. Is it a drone? Is it a satellite? Are they stars? But these all very quickly check off when he sees the maneuvers of how these objects are dancing. And that's the words that he used, that these were lights in the sky that were dancing, almost keeping these 2 pilots entertained during their flight, because they were very sleepy. They were kind of falling asleep, and then they saw these 2 very bright lights, and it woke them up rather quickly. But the sighting was corroborated by 3 crew members in the cockpit as well, including the captain and 2 co-pilots. And they noticed this while they were having a meal. Isn't that the best time to see a UFO? It's the same thing on how we eat and enjoy entertainment. These guys got the whole bill. They got the whole deal, and they didn't have to even pay for it. So it's very remarkable that pilots are coming forward and they're sharing their experiences and they're publishing it online for other people to make up their own mind on what they're seeing, if they can agree or disagree with these pilots. I didn't imagine to see this day coming, not anytime soon, because last year during the witness hearing, Ryan Graves had mentioned that maybe 5% of pilots are sharing their stories, leaving 95% of pilots that have seen a UFO in the dark, in the shadows, not willing to share anything because of the stigma, because of scrutiny, because they don't want to lose their job or their pension. This pilot right here from Indonesia is saying, I don't care about any of those things. What I saw is what I saw. I'm going to publish it online and take it from there. It also displays to us that different countries have different mentalities on UFOs. We've had the pleasure, you and I, to cover so many different shows and research topics of countries around the entire world and talking about their very famous UFO cases and sightings. When looking at South America in particular, they are so open about talking about UFOs. It's easy. We have politicians talking about them, and it's no big deal. They don't even hesitate. The United States, on the other hand, it seems as if we are very behind in this conversation, but it's also they are taking center stage. The spotlight is on them to talk about UFO transparency and disclosure and how the government is handling it, how these whistleblowers are talking about these very, what some might classify crazy things. But all these other countries are what seems like light years ahead of us. And this pilot right here is one of those people. I really like how this is going, truly. And I expect more pilots to come forward and to also show and share their videos, their experiences. For you, those listening, those watching, did you find anything remarkable in that video, or just the mere concept of pilots coming forward to share their experiences? I'd like to hear it from you. Steve says, Captain Ron is the best. Yes, and he has a very big following. On YouTube, he has over 200,000 subscribers. So a lot of people are seeing this video from him. News outlets are covering this as well. It's getting the attention that I believe it deserves. Yes, Marty, great observation. The pilots were so calm, which is one of two things. Either one, they've experienced something like this before and they were nervous, or two, in some way they were trained. Could it be trained when they are in close collision with another airplane, trained on how to interact or observe satellites and drones, right? Or trained to maybe even see a UFO. But that is a great observation. And I hope that more pilot video, I hope more pilots video record these things and release them publicly without the fear of ridicule from airline operators. But only time will tell. And the way that things are going across the globe, I think it's going in a very positive direction. Zen says, the pilots even chuckled. Yes, another great observation right there. They're like, oh, just another day at work. Just everything's fine. But David brings up a great point. Yes, they do have to stay calm at all times because they have so many lives in their hands. You're absolutely right there. But sometimes we're not able to always control our emotions when we experience something, when we see something slightly out of the ordinary. And these two men right here were very calmly talking about this, observing this. There wasn't this level of extreme excitement of like, oh my gosh, did you just see that? Right? It was very, hey, look at that. Isn't that kind of cool? Very interesting. And no, Vanessa, it did not show on radar. According to the pilot's narration in the original video, he mentioned that, and even in the YouTube description, that it did not show on radar. So that's just another detail that makes us question what is really going on here. Ian says, I think they're just used to it. Wouldn't that be so cool? Wouldn't that be so cool to be a pilot and just see UFOs on the daily? But you can never talk about it. That's the sad part. But maybe now, these days, might be a different story. Moving on to our next one. And talking about the moon, because the moon is usually on our minds when we look outside in the middle of the night. We see this beautiful, beautiful illuminated moon. And on Monday, there's going to be a blue moon, which we get every 2 to 3 years. So now you can say once in a blue moon, and then bam, Monday comes along and you're able to see it. Well, right now, scientists are proposing a revolutionary concept to safeguard Earth's biodiversity, creating this what we could classify now as Noah's Ark on the moon. And this lunar vault would store crypto-preserved cells of millions of animal species, including mammals, reptiles, birds, and amphibians. And the idea is to preserve genetic material that could potentially be used to clone and revive species in the event of a global catastrophe on Earth. And researchers from the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute suggest locating this respiratory in the moon's permanently shadowed polar regions, where temperatures can reach anywhere from negative 410 degrees Fahrenheit or about negative 246 degrees Celsius, which is ideal for crypto preservation without requiring electricity. Something that came in my mind reading this article, I thought, why now? Why is this being covered now? Why are we talking about this now? Is something going to happen on Earth in the near future that we should be prepared for? Is it just all fun and games and say, oh, who knows? This is a great time to do something like this because we barely have the equipment to do it, or something else? And I use the word barely have the equipment to do it because we have not been able to get people on the moon for decades. Little sketchy. On top of that, and which we're going to bring up in just a moment, Boeing's failure with their rocket, stranding 2 astronauts on the International Space Station for maybe, they might say there until next year. It's meant to be an 8-day mission, and they might not come out until February of 2025. Thanks, Boeing. Yeah. Yes, there are other companies such as SpaceX, such as Virgin, and a few others that are able to pick up the slack, but none of these rockets are to par. None of them are just perfect just yet. And so to launch all of these cells up there, to create a laboratory, to keep them safe, and then who knows when we're going to need them back on planet Earth, that's where it seems to be getting a little dodgy here. But even the concept, why now? Is it because we're naturally preppers and we care about saving these animal species? Or might it be something a little bit more sinister? I want to hear your thoughts on that one. Let me know in the live chat, let me know in the comments as well, and hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. So, oh, you know what, actually, Zen, you bring up, I'm happy you brought up the word UFO, because what if, and then we're just merely having a little fun here, thinking of all the possibilities. What if this idea of these crypto-preserved cells isn't for humanity, but for another species, for them to use for their own accord, for their own reason? Maybe it's a trade. And again, I'm just having a little fun trying to think of all the possibilities, but that could be one of them. Always fun. Thanks, Steve. Ooh, Mindfork says an offering. Ooh, what if in return, right? So we're sending these out, and they'll stop abducting people and conducting mutilations, cattle mutilations, right? Maybe get more advanced technology, maybe, or is it all just fun and games? This is why you come here, right? To think of these ideas and just to ponder. Ooh, Robert says a galactic gene pool? Now we're going out there. That would be wild. And Dex says, yes, why now? Why now? That has to be one of the most important questions when it comes to a lot of things. This one in particular. Talking about space and the International Space Station, let's give you some updates on that because they've consistently been in the news since they've been stranded there the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It was meant to be 8 days. Now they might not come back until February of 2025. While we have this beautiful idea of space and the exploration and all the possibilities that are out there, it sucks. The International Space Station, to live there is crap. Why? Well, you have very limited resources. You live in a very small space with a bunch of other people. You don't have running water. There's no gravity, which severely not only affects the body, the muscles and the bones, but there's been research that it also affects the astronauts' eyes as well, to where they have a more failed eyesight. And obviously, the longer you stay, the more consequences your body is going to receive from this lack of the same amount of gravity that we have here on planet Earth. And while I think many of us can say that we would have loved to filled out an application to be an astronaut in our youth, in reality, at the very least, the International Space Station, it's kind of a no-go. There isn't anything that great about it minus the view. And even then, maybe a few days there. But several weeks, several months, a year, pushing it. I think they're really pushing it. Don says very dangerous. There's a lot, space. There was one astronomer, and I can't remember his name, but he brought a very important point in one of these documentaries that I watched so long ago. And it was, space is trying to kill you. Whatever's happening outside of planet Earth, and you go out there and you attempt to venture into space, everything is trying to kill you. And over the time since then, it's resonated. I'm thinking, yeah, I can see that one. I really, really can. Even the International Space Station, it does have its dangers, and it's not going to be in orbit for that many more years. But we are aware, and we've covered this in the last year on Strangest News of the Week, that they want to start filming in space, creating a little pod or an addition to the next International Space Station that is specifically for filming, for have it be actors in movies and even content creators as well. In that case, sign me up. But they're only going to be there for a very limited amount of time, not a year. I doubt even a few months, because every day it's very expensive to maintain these people on there. Those are some of the biggest, most important things when it comes to the International Space Station and the failure of Boeing. NASA's looking at SpaceX to get these people back that we're seeing on screen right here. But even that's taking some time, and it's just displays to the world, the entire globe, that not everything is as concrete as we think it might be. Zen says, sign me up too. Hey, I'll bring the snacks because we're going to need a lot of them. A lot. Yeah, Jet, unless you get stuck. I don't want to get stuck in the International Space Station, or actually almost anywhere. Unless it's like in my apartment, then maybe that's okay. But aside from that, no. And with strangers, also a big no. When we look at this kind of news, And when I'm saying this kind of news, I'm referring to strangest news of the week. We are able, just for a moment, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, to think about all the crazy things our reality has to offer. It's not about the latest detrimental news that we see on the mainstream that just depletes you completely. This news is all about thinking about all the mere possibilities that we can fathom and cannot fathom. It's about using our imagination to think of all the possibilities, to attempt and get answers that we haven't received just yet, and to also look at the things other people are doing to push this conversation forward. When it comes to the strange and mysterious, there's so much to it. And yet, it seems as if science, politics, they're very behind. But I think that when we all get on the bandwagon here, when we all begin to understand that there is more than what merely our very basic eyes can see, what if that will bring humanity together? What if that little piece of information, we can begin to solve things together better than separately? That's why we do these shows, you and I. And if you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, as I do several shows right here every single week. I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live, all my YouTube members, all my Patreon supporters as well. You know I simply cannot do this show without you. And for my Patreon, you can get this super cool hat as well. It's brand new. It says Exploring the Unknown. And you can also get other free merch. You're able to get behind the scenes and extra videos and photos that I do not post anywhere else. And of course, that is the best way to support this channel, as things are kind of getting a little bit less. So if you want to be a Patreon and see more content right here on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on a podcast, that is the best place to do it. And you get so much in return. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.